Welcome, beauties. We are Tracy Fisher and
Dawn Hart
here from Healy Wellness, and we wanted to chat today about something that is near and dear to our hearts because we've had a lot of our clients mention that they're struggling with it. So, for you women over 40, what we wanted to talk about is the top 5 things or top 5 mistakes you might be making with regards to weight loss, if that's a challenge for you.
Yeah, this is a really interesting topic, Trace, large in part due to what we're led to believe works and what in fact works at this age and stage of hormonal health.
Yeah.
So what do you have?
Yeah, I would say the first thing, and this is really an any age thing, but the first thing is inconsistency. You know, we tend to jump into the latest and greatest diet fad. We're kind of all in. Lots of chronic diets tend to be all or nothing or black and white thinkers. So we've got some new diet plan. We're jumping into it. We're going all in. It lasts for maybe 2 weeks, and then we're just done. Right? We've been so perfect at it for 2 weeks that we're done. Then the pendulum swings the other way, and we're no longer all in, but we're all out. Right? So no change happens because we're not being consistent. So our advice would be kind of step back from that. You don't need perfection. It's always progress over perfection. So make the changes smaller and just be consistent with those lifestyle changes day over day over day.
Yeah, it really is about process.
Yeah.
Process.
100%.
Another one we often see is women approaching these weight loss plans through carb restriction or low carb diets. And in recognizing each of our physiology is quite different, and sometimes low carb plans work for the gals trying to lose weight.
Mm-hmm.
They can often backfire when it comes to restorative sleep cycles, and often lend to excessive consumption of sugary foods and carb-laden foods later in the day, or excessive binging.
Yeah, I mean, back to the all or nothing thing, right? It may be beneficial to. And probably is, if you're 40 plus, beneficial to reduce those amount of carbohydrates, primarily processed carbohydrates. But we don't have to go to nothing.
No.
That's the key, I think.
Yeah. And that's a tricky one to wrap our head around when carbohydrates at lunch and or dinner actually enhance the quality of your sleep.
Yeah, absolutely can be the case. I think the other one that we see a lot is people being particularly focused on the scale as their only measure of success. So the scale provides us some data, sure, primarily our relationship to gravity. That's kind of what it's essentially telling us. Does not give us the whole picture, but if we're emotionally really tied into that number, that can certainly skew things and bring us back to that inconsistent, practice, because we think we're doing well. We feel like we're making change. We hop on the scale. It doesn't reflect what we think it should. We lose our shit. And then engage in all sorts of other behaviors that we probably wouldn't have if we just didn't hop on the scale in the first place. So some people can use the scale effectively if they're not emotionally tied to it. Lots of our clients, not necessarily the best way to go. Maybe it's one measure, but maybe you're also taking measurements with the tape measure. We have what we call the tight pants test. So you're putting on a pair of pants that you can barely get done up, and you're putting them on again in a month. And if they're looser, you're moving in the right direction, right? So it doesn't have to be that specific or tied to that number on a scale at all for us to see success.
Yeah, and let's add to the mix, Trace, exercise.
It's a big one.
This is a big one, and it looks a bit different for each and every one of us because there's so many variables at play with respect to this conversation. But I think as a society, we've been led to believe that we can out-exercise poor food choices. And specific to this age and stage of hormonal health, it really comes down to kind of this delicate blend of what types of exercise best suit your weight loss journey. And if your adrenals are particularly taxed approaching this time of life, meaning you've had ongoing stressors leading up to this time of life, which most of us can appreciate, HIIT training 5 days a week is not in your best interest. No. It's going to further tax your
adrenals.
For many reasons. Yeah. Right? Or we'll add to the mix marathon training and or triathlete training and so forth. It can kind of backfire, further depleting your estrogen levels and so forth. So just another area of consideration.
Yeah. The other interesting thing about that, I was just looking at some research the other day in terms of what kind of exercise is likely to most spike hunger, and anything that's kind of long lasting. So the duration is quite long, or the intensity is quite high, right? So either of those two things can really cause a spike in hunger, along with moral licensing, this idea that, oh, I just did a really hard workout, so now I can go eat 3 bagels. Those things put together just make it harder on us when we're trying to focus on a new way of eating, right? Because the last thing we need, and most of us don't tolerate walking around feeling hungry all the time. It's not a good way to live, right? And typically not sustainable. So we also want to look at that piece. And the last one was or is using strategies that may have been really helpful or effective for you in your 20s and 30s. We all did things in our 20s and 30s that worked really well for us at that time, right? We could, if we were feeling like we'd put on some weight, then we just for a week could just, tone it down a little bit, and we were back to square one. The reality of, women in their 40s and 50s and plus is that our bodies changed and our hormones have changed and things do not work the way they did before. Does this mean there's no hope? Absolutely not. But we're likely to be engaging in different strategies than we did in our 20s and 30s. So pretty common complaint from our clientele is like the things that I used to do that worked really well for me are just not working anymore. And it's frustrating.
Yeah, it's very frustrating.
Yeah. So those are kind of our top 5. We see those with our clients all the time. Let us know if you see yourself in these stories, or if you have any questions. Certainly reach out and let us know, and we will see if we can be of help. We hope you have a great day. Bye.